Good morning and God morning, Ahiah family. I said I was ready, but clearly I need to turn my mic on this morning. Grateful that I thought of that 5 seconds before. My name is Reverend Karen Frost, and I am so happy to be here live in real life in person with the 7 of us in the sanctuary. We are closing out our month of One Journey, Many Paths. Today's theme is Journey to Freedom, hence my Freedom Black Lives Matter t-shirt that I'm wearing and representing. I've also got some Black Lives Matter shoes that you won't see, but I'll post those on Facebook if you follow me. I am so grateful to be here with Chris Glick, who is our band leader, Brian Menifee on the drums, and Leon Johnson on bass. And we have a very extra special musical guest for you, even though all of our musical guests are extra special. But this one in particular is special to me, Margaret Owens, because Margaret and I know each other from the Global Truth Center. Her husband, Eric Bork, and I were practitioners at the same time, so I've known Margaret for years, hung out with her children. I was the teen mentor for her kids, so I'm grateful that we get to be in the same room at the same time in a year and a half. Wonderful to see everyone's face here. And also, if wherever you are logging on, there is a great Ahiah moderator supporting you. Louise Mucha is the moderator on Facebook. Peter Bedard is the moderator on YouTube, and Mindy Morrison is our Zoom room moderator. After service, if you are not already in Zoom, you can join us on the Ahiah Zoom room at ahiah.com/virtual, where you can engage in fellowship and feel like we're in real life together, having a conversation together as a community after service. I am not going to be there because I am leading the Miseducation of a Negro class with my mom at 1 o'clock today, but everyone is welcome to jump into that. If you miss my face, if this is not enough for you, feel free to jump in to that class with me and my mom. Reading that book is not required. We've got discussion questions that are ready for everyone, so feel free to join me then. But regardless of what you are doing after service, now is the time for meditation. So I invite you to get comfortable in your space, wherever you are in the world, settling in to the present moment, opening our hearts, our minds, and our spirit for this morning meditation.
Shine bright like a diamond. Flying light in a beautiful sea. I chose to be happy. You and I, we're like diamonds in the sky. You're a shooting star I see, a vision of ecstasy. When you hold me, I'm alive. We're like diamonds in the sky. I knew that we'd become one right away. Oh, right away. At first sight, I felt energy of sun rays. I saw the life inside, so shine bright. Tonight, you and I, we're beautiful like diamonds in the sky. Our two eyes, so alive. We're beautiful like diamonds in the sky. Come and take a walk on the west side. Let me kiss you hard in the pouring rain.
Good morning, Ahiah. What a morning it is. I am so grateful to be here. My name is Peter Bedard. I am a practitioner here at the Ahiah Center for Spiritual Living. And I can tell you, I just don't know how to express how much I love you guys. I'm so blessed to be part of this family, and thank you. Today's reading comes from the Science of Mind magazine, and the title of the reading is Wonderful, Wonderful You. Wholehearted living is about engaging in our lives from a place of worthiness. It means cultivating the courage, compassion, and connection to wake up in the morning and think, no matter what gets done and how much is left undone, I am enough. I want to really say that again. No matter how much gets done and how much is left undone, I am enough. That's a beautiful quote by Dr. Brene Brown. Our next quote is from Ernest Holmes. You exist, that divine feeling, fire, imagination, and creativity may be expressed through you. The spirit comes to you with a new and fresh creativity. Be yourself and express life as you find it. Never imitate. Trust the self. Find the self in God and God in the self. Thank you, Ernest Holmes. Do you know how amazing you are? You are the shining light of the divine. You are one of a kind with talents, desires, and gifts to give. Do you live in this awareness? No matter what. You were born knowing you were the one. You were born pure divine with infinite potentiality. Somewhere along the way, this awareness may have been lost. Somewhere along the way, this awareness may have been lost. Today, the invitation is to step back into the powerful awareness of your spiritual magnificence. Take time to appreciate your many gifts and the things you love about yourself. What are the things that bring you joy? This is where your gifts are. Perhaps your capacity to love or your creative nature. There is an intelligence and inner wisdom that is your inherent nature. You have the power to heal the world. How are you doing that? How are you making a difference? Perhaps you are a leader, or you may be touching one life at a time. We each know what is ours to do. Do not let what others say or do touch your inner knowing about your greatness, your passion, your power. Step into a sense of freedom to be your true self and do what comes easily and brings joy. Abide in a sense of your magnificence. Stay there in mind all day, whatever you are doing. You shine brightly. See it, feel it, and start and end each day this way. And the affirmation is, I am a light in the world. I love who I am and all that I do. I love who I am and all that I do. You know, journey to freedom. It really is loving who you are and all you do. I used to define freedom as the ability to do what I want when I want, but that never really resonated with me. I just didn't know how else to define it. Defining it that way is really about money. The ability to do what I want when I want, and what a beautiful thing that is. But what I've learned, Ahiah, is that true freedom is loving my darkness. True freedom is loving the part of me that I hide from you, the part of me that I don't want you to see. True freedom is loving my shame, True freedom is loving the things that I'd be embarrassed of. No longer hiding them, minimizing them. True freedom is embracing that darkness, embracing my shadow, and bringing the light, the love of God to those parts of me that I was told were wrong or bad. You know, there are parts of me that I minimize, even by the way I dress. There are parts of me that I don't want you to see because I'm told that they're ugly. Physically, there are parts of my personality that I hide. And what I've learned in my years of healing pain, in my years of healing my own pain and working with my clients, is that we need to bring love to those parts of us that are suffering. I think it's a human experience that when those parts of us, when we feel love, we can do anything. So instead of hiding those parts, instead of beating them up and making them small and bad, punishing them, what if we stopped and we loved them? You know, I used to have a body dysmorphia, and I still do a little bit, in which I hated parts of my body. I wouldn't take my shirt off, even as a kid. I would be embarrassed by my shoulders. I have a raised clavicle. You can't even really see it anymore, but when I was thinner, you could. But I had bony shoulders, and girls would comment about that. Oh, your shoulders are bony. Ah, I can't put my head on that. They would try to put their head, and they'd be like, ow. And so I would minimize those parts of me. I would hide them. And then one day someone said something to me that changed my world. And instead of embracing it, I ran away from it. This person said to me, "You have the sexiest shoulders." Isn't that funny? I couldn't accept that. They thought the part of me that I looked on as a deformity was a part that was attractive. For years, I minimized my gender. I minimized my sexuality. I minimized who I am as a person, as a human being. I didn't want you to see those parts of me. I was afraid. And even when you could see them, I would deny them. And so now, what I've learned, my journey to true freedom, is to love all those parts of me, to hold them up to the light, to pour the love of the divine into them, to know that they are worthy of God's love, to bring love to shame, to bring love to my darkness. Ahiah, I love you. And I hope you'll join me in taking this moment to find any part of you in your thoughts, in your words, in your history, in your past, in your body, in your mind, that you may have hidden in the darkness. Any part of you that you may be ashamed of, something that you did, something that happened to you, something that you are. And join me right now in just breathing. Join me in this journey of bringing love to the darkness, the parts of us that are suffering, the parts of you that may be in pain physically, mentally, spiritually. Letting those parts feel the love of the divine, the capital D divine, letting the love of God flow into those parts, knowing that God can handle it. So Ahiah, be that love. I'm going to invite you to join me in this definition of freedom, this new definition that freedom is loving the parts of you that you would hide. The true freedom is stepping into your honesty. True freedom is releasing your shame. True freedom is no longer hiding, but being, loving. And thank you, Ahiah, for giving me the opportunity to love myself more deeply, because I know as God is, so am I. And so join me in this moment of prayer. Join me in this moment of breath. When we breathe together, we are breathing in the goodness that is God, the goodness that is the divine. And so as I breathe with you now, sharing the goodness of God in this moment, I know that God is all there is. I know that God's creation is love. And as I am God's creation, I know that I am love. And I feel that freedom of my heart opening to receive that love on all levels of my being, that absolute acceptance for who I am. And as I accept who I am, the good, the bad, and what I would judge as the ugly, as I accept it, I bring love to it, and my heart rips open. The divine love that pours into me now. I am so grateful for it. I accept it. I am it. And as I am it, I know you are Ahiah. I know you are, as I am, love. Join me in affirming that, Ahiah, by saying, so it is. Amen and amen. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you so much, Peter. I feel like this concept of identifying freedom for each one of us individually is the perfect way to travel along that journey. And moving forward in this journey, I'd like to invite Margaret Owens to come up and sing a song for us.
I stand in the silence, deafened by the echoes of the truth that flow from this knowing, a collection of the evidence and proof, to trust in creation as itself through me aligns, to know that my wanting more is selfishly divine. I am seeking my good, and my good is my God. I am seeking my good, and my good is my God. I church or a temple, on the ocean or a mountain kissed with snow, so many paths to God, for you are the only place to go, a being with no circumference, who centers everywhere, who asks of us only to receive, but gives it longing to God. I am diving from the cliffs of circumstance to swim in your great abundance. I will not fight the current, but be carried into joy. I know I am seeking my good, and my good is my God. I am seeking my good, and my good is my God. I am seeking my good, and my good is my God. It's what's leading me, pushing me, urging me on. I am seeking my source, and my God is my source. It's my joy and my voice and my life-giving force. I am seeking my God. I am seeking my God. I am seeking my good, and my good is my God. It's what's leading me, pushing me, urging me on. I am seeking my good, and my good is my God. I am.
Thank you so much, Margaret. So next, my friend Audra Nicole will be doing a power talk for us. Audra actually I was on the phone with her when she told me that she'd be doing this power talk, and I said, oh, what's our theme this month? And she said Journey to Freedom, which was absolutely perfect for me. And I'm going to dig into that a little bit later, but first we're going to hear from Audra and her relationship to the Journey to Freedom.
Good morning and happy Sunday, Ahiah family. Audra Nicole here, checking in with you for our Sunday morning power talk. I'm so excited to be here with y'all this morning. Today's theme is the journey to freedom. What a delightful topic, especially during these tumultuous times when it might feel like our freedom is a little lost, a little distant, a little out of our grasp. The things that we used to take for granted, those teeny tiny freedoms, might feel a little out of reach at the moment. In this global pandemic, those things that maybe we didn't used to think of as freedoms, the ability to meet up with a group of friends at a coffee shop or throw a big birthday party, the freedom to go out and eat at a crowded restaurant, the freedom to travel, to cross borders. These are interesting times. But the good news is, in our powerful teaching, we know that all of the things on our heart, especially freedom, isn't about those things that are outside of us, before us. They aren't the things of others. It's not about the restraints, the chains. Our greatest freedom lies in our ability to think freely, to speak freely, to love freely. While the thoughts of freedom and choosing choices that feel empowering seem simple enough, this morning I'd like to draw our attention to a quote by Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela said, "As I walked out the door toward the gate that would lead to my freedom, I knew if I didn't leave the bitterness and hatred behind, I would still be in prison. If I didn't leave the bitterness and hatred behind, I would still be in prison." I'd like us to think about that this week. Think about the bitterness that you can leave behind. Where are the places in your heart that hatred lives, that pain lives, that anger lives, that frustration lives, blame, shame, guilt? Take a moment and identify some of those spaces that are not necessarily full of light. And as you do that, allow the light in. Allow the love into those places of bitterness, those places of hatred, those places of shame. Let the light dissolve that. And as it does that, as you let the love in, as you are willing to release these things, I hope that you'll experience lightness. That bitterness, that hate, that pain, it's heavy. It weighs us down. A lot of times in more ways than we know. So every time we release the pain or the guilt or the bitterness, we free ourselves a little more. Sometimes it's easy to think of the people that we blame, the people that we're bitter at, that we're angry at, that we're frustrated at, the people that have wronged us. But what about you? What about you to you? What about me to me? How are the ways that I'm restraining my own freedom by holding bitterness? What are the ways that I'm shoulding on myself? I should have done it this way. I could have done it that way. All of the ways. Let's pause for a moment and release the shoulds. Let's set them down. Let's give them up. Let's throw them in. Let's reclaim our freedom to live, our freedom to love, our freedom to be all that we are, even the messy parts. Let's own it. Let's own all of it. Because only when we can own all that we are, the love and the light and the strengths that we have, but also those flaws, when we can own all of it and love all of it, that's when we're free. Because that freedom internally, as we know in this teaching, must reflect outward. So this week, love yourself a little more and get a little closer to freedom. I love you all. It's always a pleasure. I'll see you soon. Happy Sunday. Bye.
Love yourself a little more. This was Audra's challenge for us this week, is to love ourselves a little bit more. And that concept of loving ourselves, I imagine, is what brought us to the Centers for Spiritual Living to begin with. That each one of us did not accept the definition of God, the general narrative that we are fed, right? Regardless of where we come from, regardless of what country that we're a part of, there is a narrative of what God is. And as far as I'm aware, there isn't any particular culture that's designed for us to identify who we are individually. What is our individual definition of God? Who do we want to be in the world? And for me, this experience of the pandemic opened that up for me. The Centers for Spiritual Living created this space for me to identify who I am. It created this space for me to identify what beliefs that I already have that are not serving me, to uncover and release unconscious beliefs. This is what these classes at Ahiah does. The Beyond Limits class is doing this right now. The Miseducation of the Negro book study is doing this right now. Everything that Ahiah offers is a safe space for us to identify what beliefs no longer serves us and be supported and nurtured by a spiritual community as we release these beliefs, as we uncover our true nature, as we lean into who we really are. So the experience of the pandemic, for me, what it did is it changed the rules of the world. I am an aspiring TV writer. In fact, that's what brought me to the Centers for Spiritual Living, is I wanted a definition of faith that worked for me, and I didn't find it through Sunday morning services. So I took literally every single class my spiritual center had to offer, becoming a minister in the process. Still didn't become a TV writer, but I became a TV executive shortly afterwards. And this experience of ministry just kind of manifested itself in my life. And I've been figuring out what that means for me. I'm still in the journey, but I'm grateful for opportunities to give Sunday morning talks here and there. And in March of 2020, the rules of our world changed. What we decided, what we had been raised to think of as normal, completely turned upside down. And so for each one of us individually, we were really thrust upon a journey to freedom. And each one of us had a choice. We can either hold on to how things used to be, hold on, grip and waiting for this pandemic to end so that things can go, quote unquote, back to normal. And there were others of us who recognized that we had an opportunity to let go of what we knew to be true, that we had an opportunity to identify who are the people in our lives that we actually want to be spending time with. Who do we want to remain connected with? And for me, I worked a full-time job. I was at an office that took about an hour for me to get to in the mornings. And for those of you who live in cities, understand what that is, of driving through traffic to get to work in the morning. So taking that morning and then evening commute off of my plate, what that did is it gave me 2 free hours of freedom. And the question was, what do I want to do with these 2 extra hours of freedom that I now have every day that I didn't have before? And this doesn't even include like the getting in the parking garage. You know, there's a whole thing of rigmarole of going to work. And so taking all of that out, even like I could skip a shower and no one's going to know but my wife, and she's done a really good job of not judging me for it. So all of my morning routines, I really got to throw out the window and decide, who do I want to be? How do I want to look on camera? How do I want to show up in the world? Who are the people that I want to surround myself with? And this experience of freedom in the pandemic really ignited me with my personal intention of becoming a TV writer. I'd gotten some version of a dream job as a TV executive, but that desire to create and trust in the spirit to know that it would be okay, that was something that was really difficult for me, because the job of a TV writer basically means that you are only working as long as that show is on the air. And there is no telling if that show is even going to make it to air. There are plenty of people who wrote an entire season of television and that series never made it to the light of day. You never know what a life of a TV writer is going to look like. And I was terrified of living that lifestyle, of going from job to job, hustling for job to job. And the reason that I was so terrified is because I had a long, difficult relationship with unemployment. I am 39 years old, and when I graduated from grad school around between 23 and 39, I've probably been unemployed like a total of 5 years. So the challenge that I've had around finding regular employment, keeping regular employment, remaining focused on getting a job as a TV writer, all of those things have been such a challenge for me that at some point in my life, I gave up. I decided that what I wanted was the consistency of knowing where I was going to go every day, of knowing where my paycheck was coming from, of knowing what was expected of me. And that brought up this idea of jobs, right? Like what a job does is someone else tells you, this is your job, and we are paying you to do this thing. What a life of freedom looks like is that either you have a job that you like and you have a great relationship with your team so that you have a say as to what it is that you do every day. And I did have that experience in my executive job. I had a say around what I was doing each day, and that meant a lot to me. But the concepts of what do we do every day and how do we go about doing it? That was not my job. I was not the head of the department. I was the person who executed the head of the department's job. That concept of having the freedom to control my life, to choose and trust in the spirit within to guide me through my life was incredibly difficult for me. So having those 2 extra hours of the day, what I decided to do with it was lean into a meditation practice. I started committing to a daily meditation practice of anywhere between a half an hour to an hour. And in my journey through ministry, as a minister, people always said, you should meditate. Like, this is what people say you should do, especially because I am a minister. People expected this of me. But because I live a life of freedom and because I wanted to be a TV writer and not a minister, I wasn't doing what other people told me to do. I was doing what felt right for me. And it felt right for me in that moment to commit to a daily meditation practice. And in that experience, I heard my intuition tell me pretty much every day, commit to being a TV writer, get your script out, take meetings. And I didn't have time for that. I run Spirit Uncensored, was running a church on its own. What I thought I was doing was creating a monthly event. And what happened is I ended up with a spiritual center and a spiritual community. So running a spiritual community while also having a full-time job, while also trying to find my next job as a TV writer was incredibly difficult for me. And the events of May of 2020, when we started having a conversation about race in a way that we've never had in my lifetime before, that uncovered all kinds of unconscious beliefs that I didn't know I had. And the process of revealing them, seeing them, confronting them was incredibly emotionally challenging for me, while at the same time I am trying to get staff as a TV writer and running a spiritual center and doing my full-time job. And my intuition said to me, let the job go. Trust God. Trust in spirit. You're going to be fine. So I made that decision. I had a conversation with the company and we decided mutually that it was time for me to move on, and I trusted. And what happened the very next week, when I found out when my last day at work would be, I learned that I was a finalist for a TV writing fellowship through ABC. And that fellowship started January of 2021. So I thought, perfect, this is my thing. I've got a great relationship with ABC. Our production company was a pod of ABC, meaning that we had a deal with ABC. So I knew those people, and I was even a judge for this fellowship 2 years prior. So these people know me well, they love me, they support me, I will be fine. I find out in December that I did not get this fellowship. And in some ways, I would say I was relieved, and I was very confused by that. I didn't expect to be relieved. And I realized that the reason that I thought I wanted this fellowship is because I wanted someone else to create my TV writing career for me. What this fellowship would have done is ABC would have just said, there's a TV show, here, you go and you write on that show. That show doesn't have any choice. Those producers don't have a choice. In fact, ABC pays the rate of the writer so that the producer doesn't lose any money from their budget from hiring this writer. So I would just be stuck with whoever ABC decided was right for me. So I recognized once I learned that I did not get into this program, that what I was doing was avoiding a life of freedom, and that I had this opportunity to lean into and trust in my journey. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm still out here, and I understand completely why people are concerned about taking leaps of faith. But something that I've learned over the course of my life of taking multiple leaps of faith is that there is always a universal presence that is supporting me. I came to the Centers for Spiritual Living because I wanted to know that if I got in my car and moved to LA, that I would not end up homeless on the street. That was a genuine concern. And I've lived here for 10 years now, coming up on my 10th anniversary, and I've not had to struggle for anything. The very first year, I'm not going to act like it wasn't, our date nights were not dollar tacos, dollar movies, and dollar margaritas from El Torito. Like, this is how we sell it. Taco Tuesdays was our stuff when we first got here that first year. But I've been okay. And so I know that I will get staffed at the perfect time in the perfect way on the perfect show. And choosing to operate from that level of trust allows me to live my life of journey. So I ask each one of you to think about how you are looking for other people to design your life, how you are looking for a job to tell you what to do, how you are looking for others to tell you how to respond and react to the fact that we are still in the middle of a global pandemic, how to respond and react to the fact that we are in the middle of a civil rights revolution. What I value so much about Ahiah, there's so many things that I value about Ahiah, but one of the current things that I'm really grateful for is how Ahiah has responded to this concept of the civil rights revolution. Each one of us as spiritual leaders recognizes that we've never been in a scenario like this before. We don't know how to create spaces for people to have uncomfortable conversations. So what we're doing is we meet regularly to figure it out, to trust each other, to create the safe space for us to make mistakes. And the Creating the Beloved Community Workshop that happens once a month, the next one I believe is March 14th. March 15th, thank you, Reverend Scott, Monday, March 15th at 7 p.m., we are digging into this experience of having uncomfortable conversations as a community. And what that has created for me, what that has shifted for me in my life is I have stepped my game up. I've started telling people when someone says something that makes me uncomfortable, I've been used to holding it in, keeping it to myself. And one of the things that I recognize about this era that we're living in is that I don't have to do that anymore. When someone makes me uncomfortable for being Black in the space, I get to say in my spiritual community, wherever I go, hey, that made me, just so you know, this thing that you said made me uncomfortable. And that's the sort of thing that conversations that we've been having at the Creating the Beloved Community event is how do we have open, honest, authentic conversations and love each other through it. And that's what we're doing, is figuring that out together. So the Ahiah community is living by example. In this Black History Month, we're not talking about Black people for the first time this month on this stage. This is a community that quotes spiritual leaders of all races, of all genders throughout the year. Another one of my favorite things about Ahiah. Audra Nicole gave a talk on the Spirit Uncensored Instagram page. We were doing this thing called the #BestDayEver movement, where we are inspiring each person to start a day with this intention of living each day as the best day ever. And so we've asked people within the community, Audra is one of our board members, to post how they are living this experience of each day as the best day ever. And she quoted Harriet Tubman saying, "I grew up like a neglected weed, ignorant of liberty, having no experience of it." And when you think of the time that Harriet Tubman lived, it makes perfect sense that she felt like she grew up as a neglected weed and had no understanding of what liberty is. And she is this powerful woman in history that led the Underground Railroad, and many people were involved. I'm not saying that people are more or less or should or not be more famous than Harriet Tubman, but many people were involved in creating this shift and allowing Black folks to experience a life of freedom that we've never experienced before. And that same thing is happening now in America today, that there are spiritual leaders, that there are individuals, there are historical figures. Black history is live in person right now. It is currently taking place. We are seeing how the Black Lives Matter figures are being ripped apart in the media in the same way that Martin Luther King was ripped apart in the media when he was alive. In fact, in 1966, the year, I think it was either the year he got killed or right before he got killed, he had an approval rate of a disapproval rate of 63%. So 63% of Americans did not support Martin Luther King the year that he died. And what is happening right now, while we are in the middle of a civil rights revolution, is our current civil rights leaders are not being respected. Our current civil rights leaders are being disparaged in the media. And each one of us has an opportunity to decide, Who do we want to be? Do we want to be people who tear others apart, tear other people down? Or do we want to, as Ernest Holmes said, be for something and against nothing? Support the people, financially give to organizations like Ahiah or organizations that we feel like are doing good work in the civil rights revolution that we are currently living in today. The concept of freedom is not comfortable. I opened Michael Singer's book, The Untethered Soul, today, and it was the chapter about the pain associated with freedom. He said, one of the essential requirements for true spiritual growth and deep personal transformation is coming to peace with pain. One of the essential requirements for true spiritual growth and deep personal transformation is coming to peace with pain. The concept of freedom is not comfortable. No one is giving you a piece of paper that details what freedom means for you. This is something that each one of us has to discover for ourselves. As Peter identified that he had sexy shoulders, each one of us has the opportunity to identify who we are individually and act accordingly, to trust that there is a divine spirit within each one of us that supports that choice, that people who are not for us, that jobs that are not for us, for people who make fun of us, those people don't need to be in our lives. They don't deserve our attention. They don't deserve time and space in our brain. Let's go where we are celebrated. Let's go places that we are encouraged to express as our true free selves. So I am so grateful for this opportunity to be here, inspiring each one of us to identify what freedom means for us individually. And I know that everything that needed to be known, everything that's needed to be said over the course of this experience this morning is known, that each person that needs to be inspired of their own individual idea of freedom is inspired to do so. And those of us who feel like the comfort of complacency is the best choice for us, we're free to make those choices as well. This life is our life. You can do whatever you want to do with it. So I invite you to take on that cause, choose who you want to be, and show up that way in every moment. Namaste. So I invite you all to join me in prayer as we identify, lean into what freedom means for us. Getting comfortable in our space wherever we are in the world, whether we are in the Ahiah Sanctuary or in India, wherever we are in the world, each one of us brings our own conscious understanding of what spirit is. And I'm grateful that everyone who is in this spiritual community has chosen to reject the concept of spirit that has been the narrative of spirit that has been delivered to us. That each one of us is open to the idea of exploring what spirit means, identifying spirit for us individually, and recognizing that regardless of the diversity of our understanding of spirit, that we are all still one people, that we are all bound by the energy that connects us. Each one of us is the divine energy of the presence itself. There is no separation between us and our understanding of spirit. It lives within us. And I'm grateful to know that our understanding of freedom is individual and lives within us as well. That each one of us is choosing to move forward in this experience of life however we choose. Whether it is a life of complacency or whether it's a life of pure freedom. Whether it is choosing to actively identify what beliefs no longer serves us or leaning into new qualities that do. I know that each one of us are on our own perfect divine journey to freedom. And I am so grateful to know this, grateful to speak this, grateful for everyone who has joined this prayer, knowing that a shift is taking place in the world because this prayer is spoken, because each one of us is choosing to embrace who we are individually, that each one of us is showing up as the change that we wish to see in the world. So I am so grateful to know this, grateful to speak this, grateful to allow it to be so, as we affirm this by saying, and so it is. Amen. All right, so now it's time for us to put our money where our mouth is. As I said, if you are supporting an organization that is creating this shift in the world, Ahiah is a great opportunity, a great place to do this. And so I invite you to hold your contribution, conscious contribution to your heart, wherever it is, and speak these words with me. This gift I give is God in action. I send it forth with joy, confidence, and ease. I am blessed by the law of giving and receiving as I now share my gift with life. Press down, shake it together, and running over. And so it is. Amen and amen. So I think on your screen there are instructions as to how to give. You can give via text. You can send a check in the mail. Reverend Scott loves when people send little notes in the checks. He says that every Sunday, so I believe it. So if you want to send a note with your check, he will greatly appreciate it. And you have the text to give option as well. Next, I would like to invite the lovely Margaret Owens back to the stage to perform for us. Thank you, Margaret.
I paused in the light of morning and let you shine on me a while. I could feel your power upon me and the sweet warmth of your rays, they made me smile. And all the blades of the grass stood shimmering as if they understood. To be effortlessly bathed in your blessings is very, very good. And so it is, and so it shall be. We don't have to justify any more than the lilies of the field or the bird in flight has to bloom or has to fly. They do it 'cause they're called. They do it 'cause it's what they've come here to be. And the moment you serve your own heart is the moment you are free. How strange that we toil and labor in guilt and blame and compromise, driven by the voice of doubt which drowns out what the inner truth belies. If we could just breathe and feel and listen to the lover's constant beat. God's the host of this great banquet and has invited us to eat. And so it is, and so it shall be. We don't have to justify any more than the lilies of the field or the bird in flight has to bloom or has to fly. They do it 'cause they're called to. They do it 'cause it's what they've come here to be. And the moment you serve your own heart is the moment you are free. There is enough, and there is time. There is no need, only endless supply of the good that surrounds us. And it's so
Oh, wow. You know, I love the invited to the banquet part. It just, I love food. So that reminds me of freedom. I just have this banquet to go eat from. Thank you, Margaret. That was wonderful. Thank you, Reverend Karen. I loved your message. Audra Nicole, I know you're looking or watching us now, so thank you for that. And so we just have one quick announcement today, and it should be on your screen now. And it's our annual meeting. And our annual meeting is it's going to be March 28th, and it'll be right after service, so right around noonish. And I would love for each and every one of you to join us at the annual meeting. You do have to be a member to vote. We're going to be voting for a couple of board members, and we'll be announcing the nominations of who those board members are next week. But we would love for our members to show up to vote for the board. We do need to get a quorum, so please show up for that. But I would love for all of you to show up. And you can show up just by going to our Zoom room. And to get there, you just go to ahiah.com/virtual and hit the Go to Zoom button. So anyway, we're going to have a good time. We're going to be talking about our finances and what our plans are for the future and all those things that create freedom in our lives. We'll be doing that March 28th, right after service. So I'm going to go ahead and wind us up right here, right now. We'll go ahead and do our benediction. And so it'll be on the screen, and you can go ahead and read along with me. Something wonderful is happening through me right now. It is this thing called life. Life is in my mind. Life is in my body. Life is in all of my affairs. I accept it. I am it, and I share it. Just the way it appears, and just the way it appears not. Thank you, life. Amen and amen. And so I will meet you at the Ahiah Fellowship in just a few minutes. Let me unwind here and get over there. I do want to thank our band. You guys were wonderful. Thank you, Margaret Owens. Love to see you again soon. And thank you, Harris and Gloria, for a great job. And I will see you next week. Thank you, Ahiah, and namaste.